Welcome back to Askewed Reviews. And today, since it is Father's Day, I've decided to choose this movie as our Father's Day film. And it is the 1980 horror drama thriller, The Shining. Here is your trivia question for today. While Wendy is running around the hotel in a panic, she is shown some horrific and confusing images, one of which is two men in the middle of an act. What costume is one of the men wearing? The answer will be at the end of this video. At the beginning of our film, we meet Jack Torrance, played by Jack Nicholson. He is just getting hired on as the caretaker for the Overlook Hotel, as they're about to shut down for 6 months, and they need someone to watch it during that period of time. Now, don't worry, Jack's not alone in what seems like a terrible situation. He's able to bring his wife, Wendy, played by Shelley Duvall, and his son, Danny, played by Danny Lloyd. Now, there is something special about Danny, as he hears the voice of someone named Tony in his mind, showing him horribly graphic situations and telling him about scary stuff that could happen around him. But it's actually due to the fact that he has a special ability called the Shine. Fortunately for Danny, the head chef of the hotel, Dick Halloran, also has the Shine and notifies him about what it's called and a little bit about it. Unfortunately for Danny, Halloran is leaving with everybody else. Over the next few months, things just get downright terrible, as Danny sees some horribly vivid images, his mother is a nervous wreck, and his father is slipping into madness. And of course, the real question, which one of these Torrances is going to snap and kill everyone first? This movie is based off the book of the same name written by Stephen King. The vast majority of the plot came when Stephen King took a family vacation at a hotel in Colorado, which was actually just about to close for the winter. Also, a little bit is based off of his own issues with alcoholism. Stephen King has admitted quite a few times now that this is the only film adaptation of one of his books that he really did not like. Stanley Kubrick was the director for this film, and he was known for two things. Number one, taking a lot of takes for every single scene. The other is really pressing hard to get what he wants out of his actors. For instance, he was hard on Jack Nicholson. He actually got Scatman Crothers to cry, and Shelley Duvall has actually stated that she has possible mental issues from working with him and how hard he was pushing her through the process. Apparently, Danny Lloyd was the only one who got out unscathed, as he was actually overprotected during the production and was never even knowledgeable about the fact that this was a horror film until much later in life. In fact, Danny Lloyd thought it was a drama film. The actual scene where Shelley Duvall is screaming and carrying him into another room, that's actually just a life-size doll made up to look like him. The Shining was the second Stephen King book adaptation to be made into a film. The first was Carrie. Kubrick had the majority of the cast watch Eraserhead, Rosemary's Baby, and The Exorcist to get an idea of how he wanted the film to feel. All of the interior scenes for this film were actually recorded in Elstree Studios in England. The Timberline Lodge in Oregon was used for all the exterior shots of the Overlook Hotel. The one request that the management from the Timberline Lodge had for Kubrick was please don't use the room number 217 like in the book, as they were worried that people would not want to sleep in that room anymore. So Kubrick chose 237 as the lodge did not actually have that room number. In the hedge maze scene, which was not filmed outside, the fake snow that they use is actually 900 tons of salt and crushed styrofoam. The Shining was actually one of the first films to ever use a Steadicam. To get Nicholson in the right mood of being agitated, he was only allowed to eat cheese sandwiches for 2 weeks before filming started. And apparently, Nicholson hates cheese sandwiches. Anytime you are hearing the audio of the typewriter typing, it's actually someone typing out the words, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Also, every page that has those words on it was actually typed out fully by Kubrick's secretary. The black and white photo at the end of the film was actually a photograph from 1921 that they just airbrushed Jack Nicholson onto. The very famous line, "Here's Johnny," was actually ad-libbed by Nicholson. The original line in the script was, "That's all, folks." Speaking of that scene, the first prop door they made for the sequence was demolished so easily as Nicholson at one point was a volunteer fire marshal that they had to rebuild the second one much stronger. And it stated that apparently 60 doors were used in total over the 3 days it took to make that scene. Kubrick wanted to do the bloody elevator scene 3 times until he felt it was perfect. Can you imagine having to clean up after that each time? Jack Nicholson was Stanley Kubrick's first choice as Jack Torrance. Stephen King did not like him as the option, as he wanted an actor who seemed like they could become insane instead of was already starting off a little crazy. Someone like John Voight, Michael Moriarty, or Martin Sheen. Kubrick was also looking at Robert De Niro and Robin Williams as possibilities for Jack, but he felt De Niro was not psychotic enough, and Robin Williams was too psychotic. Other actors that also tried out for the role were Christopher Reeve, Chevy Chase, Leslie Nielsen, Harrison Ford, James Brolin, and Jack Palance. Shelley Duvall was also Kubrick's first choice for Wendy. Now, Wendy in the book is very different, a lot more confident, and is supposed to be a bit like a used to be cheerleader. Now, Nicholson, who read the book, actually suggested Jessica Lange, but Kubrick wanted someone much more skittish as the character. Danny Lloyd was able to get the role of Danny, but the role almost went to Cary Guffey due to his role in Close Encounters. Also, there was over 4,000 child actors that tried out for the role of Danny. Scaban Carruthers actually got the role due to the fact that he was good friends with Jack Nicholson. Now, originally, Kubrick wanted Slim Pickens as the role as Halloran, but Pickens turned it down as he had already worked with Kubrick on the movie Doctor Strangelove and was not a huge fan of working together again. The character of Lloyd, played by Joe Turkel, was originally going to go to Harry Dean Stanton, but he was already working on the movie Alien. John Williams was originally set to score the movie, but Kubrick decided to go in a different direction. So if you need more of The Shining after the film and the book, there was also a miniseries in 1997 that is apparently a lot closer to the source material in Stephen King's book. There is also the sequel book, Doctor Sleep, which was also turned into a film as well, starring Ewan McGregor. The Shining has definitely stood the test of time, and it continues to show up in pop culture. For instance, TV shows like The Simpsons, Adam Savage from Mythbusters even recreated the maze. There's also the sequence in Ready Player One, the movie. And of course, the carpet from the film continues to show up in all sorts of different movies and television series. So when it comes to The Shining, it's definitely a classic movie that everyone should see at the very least once. I really enjoy this film. It's definitely leaning a lot more towards a thriller than a horror, but it is still very creepy and scary at moments. So I'm going to give this film a 5 out of 5. Now, as for the trivia question from the beginning of this episode, while Wendy is running around the hotel in a panic, she is shown some horrific and confusing images, one of which is two men in the middle of an act. What costume is one of the men wearing? So technically, there are two correct answers. First of all, if you said a dog costume, that would be correct as that's how it's described in the book. And if you said a bear costume, you would be correct as that's more than likely what it is in the film. There is also a very dark theory, if you look into it, related to the possibility of that being a bear costume and very much the relationship that Jack and Danny have together. If you have some time, look it up. Like I said, it's dark, but it's interesting. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews, and if there is a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments. And as always, like, comment, share, and subscribe.